Hello everyone, welcome back. Just sorting out why this webcam's not turned on yet. Please excuse me. There we go. Have you tried turning it off and on again? As always, that works. So, welcome back to another map making episode of Law and Order, where we create the Waterdeep for the police procedural, starring some of your favorite Twitter shit posters. I decided not to wait for the world's most confused delivery Uber driver, so there'll probably be a break in about 10 minutes because it's going to take him that long to get another 2 or 3 blocks for whatever reason. As you can see, we're actually just back in the holding cells at the moment because I had a thought. Hello Ryan, good to see you again. It's just not the same without you, so glad to have you here. I recently had the thought that we might want to have the option to bring perpetrators in to the holding cells without going all the way through the everything. So we're just going to go ahead and resize these windows, or just move them out of the way for now maybe, and we're going to stick some sort of a prison door in where this wall is. Here and here. Now let's see what we can find in the way of prison, maybe prison bars. So that prison door doesn't look very good, so let's go let's just go door and look for some big old beefy doors. We might have to go with something similar to that lancet door, and we'll see if there's a iron or stone chip door. There is not. So, go back to this lancet door and this crypt door and see what happens. I have no idea who wrote the DM Rises from the Grave, by the way. I'm gonna guess that was Keegan, but good job, amazing. Again, one of the benefits of working with shit posters. They're quick thinkers, hilarious senses of humor. I love this team. 5, 6. It looks pretty good. We're just going to have to blow it up a little bit. Maybe we won't blow it up so much as... Okay, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and delete these walls and replace them with some smaller ones. Okay, so that was a big wall. Oops. That's okay. We'll just copy and paste that one in here. And wouldn't you know it, we're good. So, the question is, do we want or need windows on this wall now? We'll try and shrink them down, see how they look. We'll just get rid of them if we need to. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, these could wind up looking quite odd, but that's okay. They're more part of a much larger map. This is one of those cases where, you know, it's not so bad. It just looks like they were made to order, I guess. What size did we make that? 70. we go. Okay. So, a bit of a last minute adjustment, but now we have an option to get our perps and suspects in and out of the holding cells. It occurs to me we may also want to look at some interrogation rooms. Could be fun. But what we might do is put them upstairs. But we'll make a note of that. Oh, drivers finally worked out the kinks. This is good. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and put... We'll just shrink that down to like size 10 and plonk it right there. We can forget about it for now, and we'll remember it when we start working on our next floor. So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty happy with how this area looks. We'll just move that down a little bit. I think we can go ahead and start working on the front of house. Okay, so reception's looking mostly done. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the offices and the bullpen. We're going to need a couple of doors, and then we'll see how many different types of desks are available. Expecting the intercom to go off any minute. 11:55 ETA my ass, lol. So let's look for, we're already on the doors. Victorian, now we were using Victorian panel doors. To answer your question, is that Little Lepo or Little Lep? How do you prefer that? And to answer your question, yeah, I'd really like to do that. I'm thinking about taking some of the events that I've written on a random event table. The idea is that the Wardens should be interacting with up to, say, half or more of those events. Again, the idea being that I would like Law and Order to be something that people can play at home later on without feeling like they're just retracing the steps that they saw on the podcast. So, Little Lep. Okay. So, yeah, I was thinking about putting maybe some of those encounters on, or, you know, a one-word idea like vampire, or, yeah, I'm trying to think of other things I've missed. Shape changes, or gangsters, or eldritch horror from the sewers. And just letting people vote on that, and that might be one of the first things that pops up for the Wardens that week. We might also look at running some competitions for people to come and write their own encounters, submit them, and we might run them. Possibly even a winner of a competition might get to drop an NPC into the stream. So I'm looking forward to getting more community interaction as we go. Exactly. I very much like the idea of the community feeling like they have some ownership over the stream itself. I think it's just going to make people more invested. Which is exactly what we want for building a community here. No, I haven't seen much of Fizzbands. Was actually hoping to get down to my local game store to pick up a copy of Wild Beyond the Witchlight, but I'm not sure if you saw on Twitter. I was actually in hospital the day before yesterday. Nothing too bad, just sort of a routine thing with me being a cripple with a pain condition. So yeah, it sort of slowed down my going out and about a little bit more than I would have liked. But I'm back here. That's why the stream's running today instead of yesterday. See, there's... I'm just going to check the player list, the users list in chat. That's fine, there's no players here. So there are actually a limited number of dragons in Waterdeep because there is a powerful artifact in play that limits the abilities of dragons to come and go within the city limits. So while I still very much want to check out Fizzbands, Wild Beyond the Witchlight is definitely my priority at the moment on account of we have a character in the party who's tied very heavily to the Feywild. Not sure if you guys know this, but while female satyrs are definitely a thing in Theros, which is another plane, it's a Magic the Gathering plane, but Wizards has been sort of blending Magic and D&D together and essentially saying that they're all part of the same multiverse. But while the resources and lore on Fawns, however, in the Forgotten Realms and Faerun don't say that female satyrs are impossible, simply that they have not naturally occurred. So Felia is basically first of a kind. She's a walking plot hook in and of herself. So I'm hoping Wild Beyond the Witchlight gives me some good opportunities to open that up a little bit more. We probably won't do separate character arcs for a little bit. There'll be clues dropped here and there. I don't want to just be running, we do this story, now we do this story. There's going to be lots of little interwoven bits, but spending entire plot arcs around a single character is going to come a little bit later on. Yeah, some of the alt covers are gorgeous. I'm still a fan of the original styles, as you can see on the bookshelf behind me. So it's more that while some of the alternate covers are stunning to look at, I like my book collections to match on my bookshelf. I'm kind of weird that way. Okay, let's look at some desks and tables. Okay, I think we can definitely justify these fancy silk desks for anyone who would have an office. So let's shrink that down just a little bit. Yeah, that's very true. The Feywild and the Shadowfell are definitely newer creations in terms of the cosmological architecture of D&D. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting more information on them because they're essentially parallel universes, but on a different dimension than the many parallel universes that make up, my game set in Waterdeep is set in a parallel universe to someone else running the exact same campaign set in Waterdeep. So they're all parallel universes, but each one of those has their own, Actually, I don't know. Do they all connect to the same Feywild? Do they all have their own Feywilds? Like, is each Feywild a reflection of the specific material universe it's attached to? These are things that, because I'm so heavily into world building, as well as the philosophy of cosmology and metaphysics, cosmological metaphysics is probably my favorite niche subject within philosophy. I gotta know these things, you know? Mm. They can have some matching chairs. I'll give them that. Felia in particular is interesting to me, in that sense, not just because she's played by Jess, who was my girlfriend, but she is a clockwork soul sorcerer and a faun slash satyr at the same time. So she's very much existing on this almost physical, metaphysical balance between the law of like Mechanus and the clockwork soul part of her, and then the absolute chaos of coming out of the Feywild. So it's a fascinating character concept mechanically that has some incredible. So I'm still medicated. Huh. Words. Yeah, there's some profound character implications by combining those two mechanical features. Okay. Let's get into it. I think I'm just gonna grab some of the papers from this desk and paste them down here. I like it that way, so you get more of this idea of being spread out in front of them. You know, the individual workspace being this spot here. Now, just to mix it up, I thought we'll have two of the office owners be, say, right-handed and one be left-handed. Hello, average taxpayer. Good to see you again. Glad you could make it, even though it's been slightly delayed. We have been talking about changing the stream time anyway, so you know, we'll see how this goes for us. Yeah, we've had discussions about meta magic, but I don't remember where it's going, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers either. Yeah, transmute. Transmute sounds incredible. And it's got a lot of roleplay capacity as well. I mean, so if Felia is Felia Frostwalker and seems to be specializing in ice magic as a flavor more than anything, but imagine casting fireball, but it's an ice ball. So, you know, there's cold damage, but I could imagine a frost ball almost being like a souped up ice knife. Like you're hurling it at somebody, there's just a shit ton of bludgeoning damage, cold damage, and then maybe even some piercing damage from just shards of ice flying everywhere. or it's just pure cold. It's not even a ball of ice. It's pure cold energy. Like there was this movie a while back. I think it was called The Day After Tomorrow. It was an environmental disaster movie. So the eye of a superstorm approaches and everything just starts icing over. You see people running away and then just turning into an ice statue straight off the bat. Well, I'm entirely down for people approaching me to say, hey, I want to play an ice mage. Can I use X, Y, and Z spells, but we change the damage type to cold? Here's how I could imagine it working. Because if you're not really changing the amount of damage done, and as long as you're not looking to do force damage, because force damage is, there's almost no resistance to it in any of the creatures, any of the abilities, I'm down for that, you know? So I think what we'll do now is copy and paste that onto this desk, but to avoid the appearance of copy paste. Oh, that's not working. Huh. Oh, what if I was to just grab that corner and... Nope, that's not... Oh well, it was worth a try. I was kind of hoping we could use these flip buttons, but then flip everything in the group. What if I was to group it first? We're out here just trying all the things. I've lost it. Oh well, let's just hit undo. Yeah, force can be a little overpowered if it's not very carefully balanced, which more often than not it doesn't seem to be balanced, you know. I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of what Matt Mercer's done lately. When it comes to watching anything with a storyline, I gotta be paying complete attention to it. So, you know, I somewhat envy people who can just have Critical Role playing on a second screen, or be listening to it in the car as they're driving to work or on the train or something. Like if I've got something playing on my second monitor, which is where my stream software is, where the chat window is, and I'm working on my main screen here in front of me, I'm missing what's going on down there. I tried it and I found that it was just taking me 9 hours to get through a 3-hour episode because I was constantly rewinding to go, shit, what just happened? What did I miss? Can't do it. Yeah, isn't Eldritch Blast also, like, it's a cantrip, but it's basically like a longsword that you can swing from, what is it, like 60 feet away? I don't understand why Eldritch Blast gets such a bad rap. But again, I'd be curious to see if Eldritch Blast, if we could reskin Eldritch Blast, like a patron of, even some of the patrons from the Abyss. Like the Abyss has, it's 665 levels because technically you can't get past that 65th level to get to the final level, and there's all sorts of thoughts I have about that I'm looking forward to exploring. Many of these layers have different sort of environmental biomes to them. So what if you had an Eldritch Blast but it did poison, or Eldritch Blast but it did electricity damage? Could be worth a try. Okay, so we want a couple of chairs in each office for visitors, etc. They're not going to be quite as fancy. We still want them to be nice-ish, but see, this could work in that it still seems to be part of this Raven Silk it looks like it's part of the same sort of furniture setting, which I like. Yeah, we'll make it a bit smaller. 120-foot range if you take Agonizing Blast option. Yeah, it's Warlocks confuse me. It's like you get a subclass at level 1 when you choose who your patron is, but then you get another subclass at level 3, is it? Or 5 when you take a pact of some sort. I've had the benefit of never having played a Warlock before, but also never having had a Warlock in one of my campaigns before. Benefit? No, that's not the right word. This person can be a little bit more anal about how they arrange their chairs. And you know, we'll just slide this door over here a little bit further. Make a little bit more sense that the doors are opening up onto that open space. And for the sake of whoever's office this is, we're going to want to hope that not a lot of sound passes through this brick wall. Damn. See, I would very much like to see a well-made Warlock in action. I see very mixed views on them. Some say they're OP, and some say they absolutely suck. Okay. At risk of... I don't know what that's at risk of. It's definitely a risk of something, but how's that working for you? Genuinely asking, how is that working for you? Also, that's 20, that's 20, why did that... Ah. Turn this one so it's also sort of facing the person behind the desk. Yeah, let's put some greenery in here. Plants, or just something to make each office look a little bit different from the others, so it looks like a different person lives in there. Ooh, as a thought, no, they don't. I like the idea of putting a cheap couch in the back of one of the offices. You know, like the officer that stays late sleeps on the couch, has the razor or toothbrush in a cup on their desk. Like stereotypical as fuck, but let's try it. Let's look for couch. Chesterfield couch. We'll go with this one. We'll just tuck this up in the corner here, maybe. Monk, Warlock, Ranger, Rogue and Barbarian. Ooh. Yeah, I can understand why you'd want a multi-class. Um, there's not a lot of utility spells in that sort of group that I could see. Okay, so this couch isn't vibing well with how dark the rest of the furniture is, so we're just gonna drop the brightness down a little bit. And just for shits and giggles, no, ew, no. Yeah, that could work. Just make it a little bit more green. Yeah, I really get that. It's hard to play in a group where there's definitely niche niche abilities, I guess, missing, and you kind of feel obligated to be the person that fills them in. Um, and that's not a bad thing, man. Just as long as you're still having some fun with it, as long as you don't mind this character you're playing, then yeah, go for it. That looks a bit better. Yeah, that's a bit better. We'll just move that across a smidge. Now, what does Incarnate have in the way of filing cabinets that look appropriate for Waterdeep? I'm guessing filing. Yep, gonna be too specific. Honestly, bookshelves. They're probably just gonna be bookshelves. Uh, I don't see too much of a difference outside of probably the wood's better quality, so we'll go with the wood being better quality because we're dealing with the upper echelons of the rank and file here. Soul Sorcerer. Yeah. Do you find that you tend to gravitate towards the same roles more often than not. Uh, Not intentionally, not like you want to just play the same character over and over again, but you find yourself just sort of drawn to certain utilities or party roles or what have you. Yeah, I like the look of that. I also do want to try playing a Celestial Patron Warlock who thinks he's a paladin, because paladins work for celestial entities. Not always. I mean, there's still evil paladins who work for evil gods. Now that it's not like 3-5 when paladin had to be lawful good, for example, like in Neverwinter Nights. Um, they're really just like divine champions, but they work for holy gods and entities. They cast spells and they kill shit. Yeah, he's a celestial warlock, works for a holy person, casts spells, and goes out and smites evildoers. So they do it in a slightly different way, but from a from boots on the ground in Faerun, be like, yeah, I'm a paladin. I don't paladin the way you paladin, but I'm totes a paladin, man. Yeah, I tend to play. I tend to wind up being the face of a lot of D&D groups parties as well. That's an interesting dynamic. Okay, let's put some plants in this second one. Well, I guess he could also call himself a cleric. I like the idea of playing something. A warlock is traditionally like a very evil, um, always has like a sinister undertone to it or overtone. One a tone, and in this case, it's just someone who really thinks he's just like one of those classic heroes. Which why is plant? Why is tavern plates in plant? That's weird. What the hell is that? Torch bloom flowers. I do wish there were more pot plants, although I imagine it would be possible to just find the right shape for the pot and then stick a flower or a bush or something over the top of it. Which is something we might try a little bit later on, when I'm feeling a bit more adventurous and uh, awake, non-groggy. So let's have a look at what other flowers and stuff. Some of those are really pretty. Hell with it. I'm putting a torch bloom in this here office. We'll put it at 3. And then see if I can find something a little bit more basic and green. And we'll slip that in there at layer 2, which goes underneath it. forest floor plants. That looks like it could work. We just need to make it a bit bigger and bring it down to layer 2. In terms of healing, because the healing light you get at the beginning, 3d6s of healing that doesn't take up a spell slot. Yes, please. I mean, if you were to multi-class as, say, a life cleric, worshipping the same god or patron, or you might even be a cleric of Lathander, for example, a life cleric, but within the church of Lathander, maybe you belong to like a special sect or a secret sect that's run by an archangel or an archon of Lathander, and they become your celestial patron. Options everywhere, that's all I'm saying. And now we have a small flowering tree bush thing. Oh, that reminds me. Completely off topic, but I've always wanted to try making a bonsai, but instead of making a tree that's like this big, make a full-size tree, but it's like 3 foot high. Stick it in the corner of a lounge room somewhere. It's 3 foot high, but it still looks like a full-size tree. It's bonsai, but like on a different scale. I think that'd be amazing, and maybe that's what this. Maybe this is like a cherry blossom that just happens to be smaller, but not actually a bonsai in the traditional sense. Now, if that's the case, I feel like someone who would keep a tree or a plant like that would be very, very ordered. So we're just going to go ahead and straighten some of this stuff out. We might even just... Which is good because we've already got those 2 chairs like very anally placed, carefully placed. Well, let's just hope that still medicated APOD is unintentionally hilarious and entertaining APOD. So, we might put a runner down here perhaps. Rug. Not in foliage, just everywhere, thank you. Ooh. Sanguine rugs. I like this scarlet looking thing though. Oh, more animal pelt rugs. We need those particularly for things like the Roaring Horn Estate, for example. But we'll go with this one. So it's good in length. Don't like the width, but that's okay. We'll drop that down to layer 1, so it's directly on the floor. And, you know, I think we'll just transform the width. Take that down by 20% and shift that over there like so. Now, in fact, if we stretch that out a bit more, put another 20% in there. Oop, too far. We can just sort of shuffle that up so it includes the plant. Now, someone like this, I would like to imagine, We'll keep their bookshelf directly behind them. Maybe even in the corner to maximize the available space. Take that up to layer 3, which means that we'll also just want to move this chair over ever so slightly so that, similar to my second desk here, you can just sort of push back, turn around, access everything. Mind you, I would love to be as organized as whoever runs this office. I am chaos incarnate sometimes, and I hate it, but we're getting better. Let's see now. Azamar, financial forgets he's an actual god. I'm down for that idea. Permission to borrow that for Law and Order. That's brilliant. We're going to find a guy who's accidentally worshipping himself. Brilliant. Okay, so that doesn't look too bad. Let's, I feel like this space here isn't being utilized very well. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Lap. It was Andy? Yeah, we'll stick with Lap if you like. Yeah, there is a chapel. There is a church nearby. It's a weird one. I think it's a church in the strictest sense, but it's like a god of drinking and merriment. So it's like a small shrine upstairs above a tavern or a tap room. The the characters are gonna love it because clearly we've got some serious booze hounds in the party. Hmm. I do feel like we're missing something from here. It feels like underutilized space. But what we could do is just okay, I think these are all intentionally a little too rough around the edges. What we're gonna do might work, might not, is let's just go wood. Let's just go wood, not wolf. It's like the what is it? Skyrim with the guy who gets you really drunk, and it's basically, I think it's The Hangover. I haven't seen the movie The Hangover, but I'm told it's basically like them trying to retrace their steps from the night before. Except the guy got so blackout drunk he forgot he was a god, and I'm here for that. Okay, so what I'm thinking, right, is we're just gonna take what is ostensibly a wooden door and shove it up against the wall there like that. And from a top-down perspective, what we have is a notice board or a pegboard or something for like all the red strings and notes and pictures and what have you. Just because I like the idea that whoever's in this office, middle office, is clearly coming across very orderly. So I like the idea that there's no wasted space. So, you know, we've already talked in the past before about using stamps in ways that they weren't intended to be used because it still looks good. I think that works. If it doesn't, let me know in the chat, but I'm okay with this. So I like this notion of, many books, a little disheveled, a couch for sleeping on. This office seems to be a veteran. A veteran, but one who's very much, married to the job. This person, whoever's in this office here, is clearly, I would say it doesn't matter how fresh or jaded they are, they're clearly very orderly, which is probably what landed them in an office, as opposed to being in the bullpen or, just one of the many, many patrolmen out there. And there is... Now we're just going to come to this one, and, let's just start putting some furniture in the office, and we'll see if a character emerges from that, like they did with this second room. Thank you. I forget what the name is, but the magical item. You drink alcohol and D&D. Also gain healing. Once a long rest. Yeah, we'll call it the hair of the dog, or we'll call it the mug of the hair, or something. Interesting. I think there's a lot of potential to come up with something like that. One of the things I've already got plans for, it'll be interesting to see if anyone spots it before any such plot twist is dropped, but I want to play around with the girdle of masculinity, femininity from Baldur's Gate. It doesn't necessarily need to be a girdle, per se, but I think there's an absolute wealth of... We might just have to stick a second wall in here to fix up that gap. I think there's an absolute wealth of story and character motivation to explore with an item like that. We talked about it as a group, because this group, like, we're shit posters. We don't deny it. Having said that, more often than not, when we're shitposting, we're talking about some pretty serious stuff. We're just sort of using humor to deconstruct it, point out the absurdity in some of the, some of the check marks and celebrities trying to make impactful comments about stuff that they really have no business commenting on. Obviously, with Donovan, Jess / bad cripple, myself, with my neurological spinal condition, this idea of ableism being championed in D&D is... my eyes rolled any harder I'd be seeing yesterday sometimes. So, one of the things we kind of want to do is explore some of these social issues, but do them in a way that's true to the shitposter ethos, that's both nuanced and entirely irreverent. So, girdle of masculinity, femininity, I think there's some... my brain just farted and I don't know how we got here anymore, so I'm going to get back to this office. So we have the career veteran, we have the up-and-coming sharpshooter. I don't think we need to take a break at the moment. I'm pretty good to keep going if you all are. If anyone wants to do a quick loo run, that's fine. I'm just gonna look for... let's... weird as this sounds, let's just put in the word office and see what happens. Unsurprising. Okay, let's look at foliage watership. Arcane. Hello. We could have we could have a more magic orientated member of the Watch. Although, I mean, the Watch does work with the Watchful Order of Protectists and Magists. I think that's right. And I've already mentioned Rorick Kerwind out in the bullpen. If you're interested, I'm just gonna open. You guys can have a sneak peek of Rorick. Let me just drag that over here and close that. Okay. Where my NPCs at? Amulet of the Drunkard. Thank you. I'm going to... actually, if you want to tag Law and Order on Twitter and put a link to that item, I will go find it after I take a nap post-stream. Yeah, that's gonna happen. Okay, so I haven't moved them into the NPC folder yet, but that's okay. I want to make a shot glass or a tankard based on that concept that works once a day or gains 1d4 charges every dawn. Okay, here we go. Once it loads, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rorick Kerwind of the Watchful Order of Protectists and Magists. I'm going for sort of a younger fellow who's eschewing the more wizardly robes. So, you know, he's got his side pack with various files. He's got a holster for his wand. Like, I really wanted to have, and I think the original description has a bandolier with a bunch of like material components, etc. Unfortunately, Hero Forge I don't think has bandoliers. If they do, I haven't found them yet, or they're tied to like specific tops in the clothing section, and I wanted him just to have like the shirt and trousers and boots. We're kind of going for, in hindsight, I think we're kind of going for a Knight's Tale vibe, where thank you, Little Lep. I will look for that a little bit later on. So, in A Knight's Tale, obviously there's a lot of anachronisms there, but watching some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, the anachronisms were designed purely around the concept of jousting, the tournaments. I almost said it, American tournaments, and you know the feastings that happen as part of the tournament procedure, as a way of sort of showing how the whole jousting thing was part of the new generation of medieval folk. And so, you know, you can see the old lord at the beginning in the first thing, just like, we will rock you, but like looking really bored with it. Like, I'm just here because I'm expected to be. The kids love it, not so much me. So, kind of want to inject something similar where this is like the next generation of Waterdeep, and we're bringing a little bit more of like the 1920s, 30s noir into the scene with, and of course, Shalara, Fleurmaster from last week's episode is clearly an adapter or an adopter of some of these new trends, whereas Capian Flurmaster is still very much the old school mage. So yeah, I want to play around with some slight anachronisms to, I guess, add to this tone of Law and Order or Waterdeep homicide life on the streets. So, you know, the next generation of Waterdeep is still going to very much have that, you know, swords, magic wands, vials, potions, whatever, but they're going to be a little less classical fantasy and a little more urban fantasy. So that's exciting, I think. And as another sneak preview, this is a character who was introduced in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, but is a private detective named Vincent Trench, who runs the Tiger's Eye private investigators out of Waterdeep North. So I went ahead and made him in Hero Forge yesterday when I had a bit of time on my hands but not a whole lot of lucidity. So I went ahead and he's based after an actor that I really love. I love his roles, but I also I really respect the actor himself. So when he shows up, I will think of something fun to give out to the first person who can guess which actor my version of Vincent Trench is modeled after. Nighttime. Well, I hope you're feeling better from what I'm guessing is a cold. But if you feel the need to pass out, I 138% understand and empathize. But thanks for coming along and sticking it out as long as you have, and we'll enjoy you for as long as we've got you. Now then, we were looking for something. I think we're just going to do that little scroll, and we're looking for something that can add a little bit of character to this office. Give us an idea, I guess, of what sort of person calls that office home. I'm checking out these here moiters in Waterdeep, and you know I'm maybe a little bloke, but no, I do not have the processing power to be copying, mimicking people at this hour. These look like some fun implements. We could be interested in a dude with a skull on his desk. Although, I do very much want to look at maybe putting a morgue with a coroner in a basement level somewhere. That'd be fucking cool. Someone who would just, like, creep the shit out of everyone. Everyone thinks he's some sort of evil necromancer. And in truth, he's just a scientist who's interested in how the common body works. You can't really say human body, but you know how it is. Scrolling. Keep this palette scrolling. All night. Nothing as yet. That's okay. I mean, an early adopter of technology could be interesting. So, sort of an officer who's also a little bit of a tinkerer, maybe. The hell is that? Frozen corpses. Cool. Oh, is this it? Surely there'd have been more than that. Oh well. Okay. Let's do it. Let's try for a tinkerer, someone who's trying to go all in on this fancy technology. You know, we can think later on about whether or not he's hyper competent and a tinker himself, or he's just an absolute fanboy for this stuff. Like one of those dudes who got in on cryptocurrency early, but like lost all their money on it whilst trying to convince everyone else it was the. And don't get me wrong, there's people out like cryptocurrency can be amazing, but it's speculative. So let's. Where did I put it? Where did I put the lights? Steampunk. There we are. Let's just see if steampunk exists as a thing, as a hashtag. It does not. That's okay. Okay. So we will need to put some light sources in all of these as well. But we're going to put a light there. Let's see if we can create some sort of a boiler generator. Steampunk machinery. Yeah, this works. We'll move that down to layer 2. Yeah, I play an art. Well, I did play an artificer in a campaign that appears to be dead in the water now. I'm actually going to introduce that character as an NPC later on down the line because there's some incredible story potential for this character and his plans and desires. Oh, what the hell? Apparently this whole thing is at -5. Let's go ahead and... That's so much better. No idea how that happened. Yeah, so I mean, obviously the Alchemist is a thing. I feel like the Alchemist is more traditional D&D take on the Artificer, but I love the Artillerist, the Battlesmith, and I'm a huge fan of the Armorer. It's very hard not to play the Armorer and not have the Iron Man jokes come out almost immediately. I sort of leaned into the Iron Man archetype a little bit with my character, just because I knew the jokes were coming, but designed the character to be unique enough that there's obviously some homage there, but anyone who spent time with the character in game, at least as I've developed him lately as an artificer and not as like an invention wizard from Unearthed Arcana, knows that he is very much a his own character. So it's like yes, Iron Man, but also yeah, it's kind of fun using your characters as NPCs because you get to... I mean, look, some DMs, when they introduce NPCs or when they introduce former PCs as NPCs, they become the DM NPC, and it's absolutely cancer. But I think if you take a nuanced approach to treating your previous PC as an NPC, you get to see a whole different side of them that you wouldn't normally see playing them as a player character, because obviously, instead of acting on, they're the ones giving the information to be acted on. It's an interesting dynamic. I think I've had some ideas in the past about how the Myers-Briggs type index, I think it's called, is certain types of NPCs seem to fall into certain personality types. And while I'm aware the Myers-Briggs has been pretty roundly condemned as being unscientific, I like it. Not as a, oh, well, you're such a typical EMPJ or whatever. I like it because it deals in um, four relatively well balanced archetypes that play off each other. So, you know, some people are introverted, some people are extroverted. Some people sort of shift between them. I tend to be extroverted, but then I go through periods where I just don't want to deal with people. There might be one or two people I just want to spend time with, but I don't want to be, I don't want to be like being out there. Um, so I think it's useful for at least character building. Um, I've completely forgotten how we got here in this conversation, so I have no idea where to take it from there. You're all being incredibly wonderful and patient, so mwah. Okie dokie. Let's see what other steampunk stuff we have to trick out our guy. I think we'll give him a toolbox behind the desk somewhere for fixing things when they inevitably break. We'll put that down to layer 1. Now we'll shrink it down. Say a little bit, but when you go from 25 down to 20, that's actually a 20% decrease, which is kind of big, but I am babbling. Blastoise turtle with cannon on its back. I hate it. Well played. It says steampunk tool, but honestly it looks a little bit like a typewriter. So we are absolutely going to make it a typewriter. Better move that up a couple layers so it's on the desk. That's fun. This is set, Law and Order set 6 years after Descent into Avernus, so I've already got permission from some of the people I played Descent into Avernus with down at my local game store to drop some of their characters in as NPCs, but I'm not going to make it obvious. Obviously, most people watching will just think it's another NPC, but I'm curious to see how long it might take some of the people watching to go, hang on, that was me, because I think that's going to be a fun thing for someone. It also means that for players who wanted to continue their character story a little bit, I can work with them in between episodes to further their story along a little bit in a way that's going to be fun for them. But in some ways, it's almost like outsourcing a little bit of the world building, which I think is great. It makes it a more collaborative effort. Okay, what else are we gonna have in here? The vault doors, that's cool. Broken light. Okay, well here's the one he hasn't fixed yet. Make that 2 just so it definitely doesn't go over the wall. What I'd love to do is bring a couple of the characters from my current Curse of Strahd campaign into Law and Order, but I don't want to do it yet because it's too early in the Curse of Strahd campaign, and I don't want these players to feel like they have to take their characters in a certain direction to match what I've done with them. And, you know, most of the players aren't going to consciously want to do that anyway. I just don't want anyone thinking like I have a certain idea for their character and they're going to be going against that by doing their own thing. It's probably just me way overthinking stuff. But that's me, you know, that's my style. What's the point of thinking if you're not overthinking? Don't answer that. What are these? Plumbing? Art Deco walls? Cogwheel walls? Ooh, okay, so cogwheel walls look like they could be fun. I am fascinated at the idea of a guy who spent many dragons, gold pieces in Waterdeep, on like a wall, like almost like a chalkboard, but you hang it on the wall and it's enchanted to create minor illusions. So it's like this guy looked at this person's pinboard and went, I can do better than that. Technology, baby. And it might break down all the time, or maybe it's like he goes to boot it up, he activates the spell, and there's like freaking porn on the screen. He's like, oh, wait, no, forgot to delete my search history, all of that stuff. But, so with that said, though, there are three. With that being three-dimensional, the minor illusion thing being three-dimensional, let's see if we can find like a platform or something that he can have on his desk that creates the minor illusion. We might want to go arcane for that. We might even... Ooh. Okay, so... Technically they're test tubes, but from this from top, it looked like a small glass dome. So I'm going to put this down at layer 5. Let's put that there for now. And then if we put some sort of arcane sigil underneath it... I think that... Arcane. Yep, there's an arcane category. That could work. That looks funky. That's as small as it can go. So we got to paste it there and then shrink it manually, which isn't too bad. It just looks more like a swirl of colors, which is good. This is good. And we slip that underneath there. And now I just want something to put underneath that, so it's like on a pedestal or a box or something. Let's look for... Oh, actually, one of these wizard staffs. Cool. Are these wands? Good to know. Let's look at these summoning circles. Ooh. Okay. So we'll take this one and make that layer 3. And have like a multicolored glow coming out of it. And then we'll grab the red one, tilt it slightly. Oh no, we don't even need to tilt it slightly because it's slightly different from that pattern. Just create this idea of different colors and shapes coming out of it. Like it's imagery, illusion, magic. I think we'll put that down to layer 2. We definitely want it underneath the other colors. Okay, on the one hand it looks kind of cool, and on the other hand it looks like a fucking pimple. We'll get rid of the orange one. And delete. Okay, so let's... and not that one. Now... not that one. There we go. Now we're just gonna group that together. Might even shrink it down just a little bit more. And we have his magic minor illusion desk table implement thing. Great, I want to play a moon druid who sees their wild shape as a curse. They don't ever want to do it unless they have death. Yeah, look, experimentation. Experiments are great for backstory as a way of explaining certain abilities. I'm always interested in people who want to say, my character is a wizard, or a bard, or a druid, but didn't get their abilities the traditional way. They've got this alternate way of arriving at this same place. And that takes them off in a different direction, and I think it's really creative. I'm always wanting to encourage that sort of thing. Okay, so I don't like that interacting with that. We're just going to shift this light down a little bit. And yeah, we can even have this as like a globe of swirling colors as its default state. And then when he puts his hand on a receptor somewhere and speaks a few words, then the light stops swirling and coalesces into an image. I like this idea. And yeah, that's not bad. I do want to put the shadows on that. Is there a way of doing it? Edit group, shadow mixed. Let's just go object, blend, shadow layer. I think we'll just do that. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Okay. What on... This is true. Bards can talk their way in and out of many situations. If you build a dex-based bard, they're great at stealth. My bard monk is dex with charisma based, so he's got some pretty decent... What on earth is happening here? I'm confused as to what is happening. We're just going to go ahead and save it. 122 changes. Yeah, we want to save that. If anyone criticizes the realism of your world, just mention it was created this way by the gods or was made by ancient magic. I don't know. Are we okay with that? I feel like the main issue people tend to have with this stuff is internal consistency. We want internal consistency in our world. So I like it when things in a world come out of nowhere, throw you a curveball at you, and You know, one of my favorite things is to hear a player say to the DM, like, that's not possible, or be the DM in question, and for the DM to turn around and go, it's not possible that you know of, which implies that, yes, everything, the world is still internally consistent, you might have a wrong idea about how the rules work. And they go, how is this possible? And they go, you don't know how it's possible. Just implying there's more for you to learn. This makes me happy. Now, I still have no idea what's going on with this. Every time I go to stamp, this dotted line appears. I don't want to be working with that group anymore. Can we not work with the group anymore? How do we stop working with the group? You go back. Excellent. The more you know. Okay. So I think we're good with the officers for now. Let's just take that down to 0.1 as per 0.1 as per all the other labels. And I think if we put it there, it's going to be lost. So we'll just put it down there underneath. And look, I'm easygoing. What are you thinking? Bullpen, meeting room, or break room? I'm happy to take lead from the chat on this one. So, Little Lep, Ryan, taxpayer, chime in if you have a preference. I may have to end the stream early just for my own well-being. And actually, I think if if I'm at the point where I'm thinking about ending the stream early because my body is telling me it's nearing its end, then I should probably get in early and take off. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to drop a couple of cheap desks in the bullpen as a visual reminder for next week, and then I think we'll look at finishing up. Pushing myself past this point is often how I get into trouble. That wasn't the case on the weekend. I woke up feeling in a lot of pain, but more often than not, it's probably more self-inflicted than I'd like to acknowledge. Not office, desk. Okay, look, I don't actually like any of these. This is a really pretty desk, but I think it's too pretty for a bullpen. So let's try table. That train table looks pretty cool if we just sort of smush it down into a more desk-sized shape. Desks. Yeah. I think these tables are honestly too cheap. We're kind of trying to find that nice balance. This isn't too bad. This, I think we're going to go with this. We'll need to adjust the size somewhat. Let's take this up to at least 15. And that's going to need to be 2 or 3, probably 3. Let's just quickly make sure that these are set a little bit higher. These want to be, we'll say, level. You know, we could probably... Wait, does that change the shadow at all? It does not. Okay. We're going to make these layer 5, simply because they're not interacting with the external walls, and we want to make sure anything and everything in the bullpen goes over them. Ooh, I like this idea. That will have to, so these are partitions where they may be waist height. These are actually walls. I'm thinking a head would be mounted here on the stone wall, and this is sort of halfway between top and bottom. So let's see what monster heads we have. I think trophy will be dragon trophy heads. So that's kind of cool, but unfortunately, as I said, there's not a lot of dragons in Waterdeep. But a big old dire boar seems appropriate for the sort of power level we're looking at in Waterdeep. There's a big old boar's head. Or dire boar head. Oh no, that's still... Could even become a plot point. Did it happen? And if it did happen the way the chiefs talked about it? Okay. Alright, we'll bring the... We're going to bring the bullpen down to 0.1. We've got a table and a boar's head. We've got enough to be remembering that when we start next week, we're starting in the bullpen. So I think I'm going to call it here on account of... yeah, I'm not still 100%, but we've done our offices, we started the bullpen, we've had a great chat. Ryan, taxpayer, and Little Lep, thanks for joining, thanks for chatting along and helping create this world. And we will see you on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, depending on, well, actually Wednesday lunch now, depending on where you are in the world. And as always, all watchmen are bastards.